to talk to you today, folks. I guess what I want to talk to you about really is startups and doing it from your own place. For the past 15 years or so, I've run international companies based here at home in Kerry. And I think it's one of the great things about changing the world and with the internet is the fact that you can really, you can run a business from anywhere in the world today, provided you understand the challenges that are involved there. And I'll kick off by telling some of the story of Stockbyte, which is my previous company, and how that came about. I had a background as I was a press photographer, photojournalist in my sort of the first part of my career. Followed the path of my parents were also in the same business, in the newspaper business. And decided to set up my own business in 1981, and I quickly sort of fell in love with technology when the Apple Macintosh came out, and instead of being paid £30 an hour at the time, I was able to make sort of substantially more in a day by using technology like the Apple Macintosh to first of all create corporate newsletters, and I travelled throughout Ireland for companies like Senator Windows and Semper Tyres, with car dealers in Cavan and sort of window franchisees in all over the country, producing local newsletters on an Apple Macintosh. And I was the first person to use that machine sort of commercially in Ireland, and that was basically took a huge chunk of cost out. And instead of working by the hour, I was able to take on very significant contracts that gave me a better return for my time and for my talent. And that developed into a pre-press company. That's pre-press services, sort of drum scanners and creating film separations for printing and so on, and colour retouching. And we were the first sort of people to do that sort of that digitally in the country, and a lot of the other sort of people who were doing it they were all based in Dublin for starters, one competitor in Belfast, and that basically sort of we were disruptors really, using very new technology. We were probably the only house who were non-union, and we would operate pretty much around the clock, taking in pictures to be scanned and creating them, putting them together with page designs for magazines, for newspapers, for advertising agencies, and that was the first taste of a serious, scalable business. And we offer those services not just in Ireland, but in the UK and throughout the world. And one of the early deals that we did was with a company called Elsevier. They're the world's largest medical journal publisher, and they were based in Shannon Airport at the time, in the industrial park there. And we approached them with regard to sort of providing the services, and their scanning services at the time were from Singapore and Hong Kong. And we said, look, we can match these guys for quality, and we'll pick up from you every morning, every afternoon at 4 o'clock, and we'll have the work back to you at 8 o'clock the next morning. And they didn't believe it at the start. And I said, look, we've got better technology. We've got we can really beat the hell out of your suppliers in the Far East in every respect. And they gave us a trial, and we got the business. And that was we got all of their European work simply by understanding the problem that they had and understanding how we could make their business work better. And the fact that whether we were located in Kerry or in Mara, it didn't matter a damn to them. And that was really, I guess, a taste, of what was possible in terms of doing business internationally. I mean, as a photojournalist, I've been working before that for a lot of international newspapers and magazines and picture agencies like the Associated Press. So I guess after a number of years, that business was becoming a victim of disruption itself, because digital cameras were coming along, and computer plate systems was making what we were doing was going to make what we were doing redundant. So I looked at the options, the skills that myself and my colleagues had. There were only 7 or 8 of us at the time, and it looked to us that stock photography was a really interesting space, and that was dominated by companies who were giving a real crap service and charging through the teeth for it. So we decided that that it would be really great since the whole world of design had now gone digital with the adoption of the Macintosh, to have digital pictures for a fair price would be a great idea. So, to pay once like you do for software and use forever. And we launched, we started working that business in 1996. By January 97, we brought a product to market, 10 CDs with images on them on what's called a royalty-free basis, which means just like software, basically, you can buy it once and use it forever. And that was a real experience for me in turning basically a piece of plastic that cost 50 pence into something that we sold for £300 at the time. So that was a real learning. We launched it at Macworld in San Francisco, and got $1 million in venture capital a few months later, and we sort of took the world by storm for a number of years, and that was it was as simple as that. We said, right, well, if we're going to go to market, we need to go to market in a place where we're going to see the most customers at one time, and that was the Macworld exhibition in San Francisco. We stuck our neck out and spent probably 20 or 30,000 pounds that we didn't have at the time to launch at that trade show, but it got us into new business. It was a new way of using our talent and our skill, and we pivoted and adapted ourselves to new environments. And, that business, lots of more people came into that business over time, but we were one of the first 3 companies in the world in that space. And over the years of that business, we decided that there was we built a lot of business intelligence around what were the right pictures to shoot. It was a bit like running a movie company to a great extent. With teams of production people, photographers, art directors, working all over the world, in South Africa, in the US, Australia, the UK, and here in Ireland, shooting pictures for stock use, appearing in the covers of Time and Newsweek, and all the Fortune 500 companies used us for their advertising. And at a critical point, we decided that we would do business. We made a couple of moves for the long term. We said, right, well, the venture capital partners who came into with us at the start, Act Venture Capital, were interested in selling their shareholding, and I said, look, we'll give you what you aimed to get out of it at the start, which is a sort of 25% return plus a bit. And we bought them out. We borrowed money to do that, and we looked at other options for growing the business. So instead of we managed to borrow a good couple of million, and so I would use that money to expand the business, to actually really scale it up. And at that time, we were producing about 5,000 images a year and making about $1 million net profit. So we said, right, well, what would it take to become the leader in the industry? Because by this time there were 50 or 60 companies coming into the business, and it was getting fairly competitive, and the cost of acquiring customers was getting higher. So we said, look, if we manage to get to the position where people love our images, but it takes us a long time to produce them. So if we shorten the cycle of creating a concept to having those images available on our partners' websites throughout the world, then we could really take the industry by storm. So we made a couple of moves. We said, right, well, we've got to set a target that within sort of 12 months we'll be creating 5,000 new images every month. And to do that, we had to scale up the business very substantially. We had to open. We couldn't get the blocker and the barrier to making that happen. Strangely, it wasn't necessarily money. It was actually skill and talent. And there was one piece of expertise which we had, and we couldn't find good colour retouchers here in Ireland or in South Africa or in the UK. And we went back to the home of colour retouching in Hong Kong, and we found a team over there and recruited, did a deal with a production company and had 18 colour retouchers who were trained in the Stockbyte sort of system of colour retouching to get really attractive skin tones, which is a really important part of our pictures. So we were churning out these images and sort of instead of 5,000 a year, it was 5,000 a month, and we were growing the business very rapidly, and it put us in a really powerful position. We also launched a new brand called Stockdisc, which was sort of the pioneer of stock photography, which was a little bit lower in terms of price point. We were selling our discs for about, we started selling them at about £300, and there was ended up selling at about £700 sterling, and the new brand would sell for about £200. So we had two different parts of the market captured. We then did a deal with Getty Images to distribute through them, and they were the largest seller of images in the world. They're the leader in the industry, and very quickly we became their largest supplier, and the revenues were just amazing. And I guess the thing about licensing is that there's no real direct costs. It's a 95% gross margin business, whether it's software licensing or any other form of licensing. We were taking the cost of creating those images up front. It was really expensive. Maybe we were spending between $1 million and $2 million per shoot, and we would have these running simultaneously around the world. And we were having to make the right bet and shooting the right images at the right time, and second guess the market. And we built a lot of really good business intelligence systems to figure that out and to take the risk out of it. So the business was doing really well. I mean, the sales from Getty were phenomenal, and all our other partners was growing gangbusters. When there was a sort of a dark cloud on the horizon, and that dark cloud was a company in Canada, in Calgary, called iStock Photo launched, and they became a marketplace. They didn't create any images themselves, they became a marketplace for photographers, and they started licensing images for $1 a piece. Our average single image license was about $200 at retail price at that time. So basically, these guys were putting a bomb under the business model that we built and that Getty themselves had built, even though Getty bought that company. And I stood back to sort of consider where we were. I bought back 30% of my company from the venture capitalists, borrowed a lot of money to grow the business, and I figured, the business was becoming really, really profitable. We had only about 28 people on the staff, maybe about 100 contractors in various parts of the world, but we were generating net profit of $2 million a month at that point when we scaled up the business. I tried to take the view as to whether in a couple of years' time, would the business keep growing, or what was the most logical thing to do? And I figured that Getty's share price was very high. They're at a valuation of about $5 billion, and their valuation was about 38 times earnings. And I said to myself, well, it's likely with this new business model, that's probably more likely to fall than to rise over the next couple of years. So I took the decision that it was actually time to get out, that was the high in the marketplace. And no matter how much further we developed the business, the capital value of the business itself was going to fall, most likely. I guess it was around that time when you buy back some of your own business, you start acting not just like an entrepreneur, but also like a shareholder, and that's the view that I took. And as it happened, I think I was proven right. So we started a sale process. It was an auction where we put together an information memorandum, a very detailed sort of book on how the company operated and why it was successful. I mean, we were the most profitable by a huge factor by a company in the business on a per capita basis, we figured out really good systems for creating images that people wanted and getting them out to the market very quickly. So there were three bidders for the business. There was Getty Images, Jupiter Images, another company in the public company in the US, and Corbis, which is owned by Bill Gates. So ultimately, Getty did the deal, and we closed the transaction for $135 million on April the 6th, 2006. But I guess the real, when I had time for reflection about that business, there was a couple of things that really stood out in terms of the lessons, and probably the key lesson for me was the fact that, unlike any other CEO in the business, I spent a lot of time in airplanes and meeting our customers around the world. We had 130 key partners who sold our images on their websites alongside all of our competitors in 70 countries. And all of those people, I met them at least once a year. And the important ones, I met them several times a year. And as did my senior people. But I mean, that personal contact and that relationship was really, really important, and you could see the whites of their eyes, and it's just so important. I think it's something that Irish people are really good at building those kind of valuable relationships and the trust that it takes, and the hardball negotiation that it takes as well to become their number one priority. So getting on planes was really important. And I guess the philosophy that we used rather, we had a direct business where we sold the images directly on our website, and we had a partner business. But when we decided to scale up the business, we decided that it was going to be very hard to scale up the direct business, but the partners we could scale up. So the goals we set for ourselves was to be number one, sort of partner of of every place in the world that sold images. So we expanded our partner base, and we sat down with these guys, and we had marketing plans and bonuses and incentives and marketing plans for with free iPads to their customers, loads of other stuff to be number one. And we made it guarantees people that look at two best brands, Stockbyte here. We want to be you can't give equal weighting to all of your suppliers. We think deserve that position. So what we were really negotiating was a fair advantage for ourselves, and that's what we managed to achieve. That's a very successful relationship. So, you still doing this?
Yeah, it's just a bit of a break up, Jerry. We're trying to perfect it here.
Okay, are you still getting audio?
Yeah, we're getting the audio on the video, Jerry. Just a wee bit of signal breakup, but you've got about 3 minutes left to run anyway, so we're running out of time.
Okay, fine. So I guess the reality is that that understanding of customers, that sort of relationships, using partners. It took a very small number of partners to grow that business fast, and that's really that's the number of costs that we had rather than trying to sell to millions of customers. We concentrated on those 70 people. It's a really strong relationship, a very profitable business, and I think we're smart enough at the end of the day to get out at the right time. And today, the Tweak.com business is built on a very similar model, working with the major big box stores around the world to improve the experience of their customers. And for example, in one of the chains in the US in the next couple of weeks, in 1,000 stores, you'll be able to walk into different copy departments and see the Tweak interface and have printing done for you within the hour. And that's the innovation that Tweak brings. Its photography, its design, its copyright, and an easy to use web interface. So that's pretty my story. And I don't know if you want to answer any questions or not, but I'd be happy to answer them if you do.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jerry. If we could throw questions open to the floor. Yeah.
Hi, how you doing, Colin? Everything appears to have gone, we say, in stages. Was there a grand master plan, or were they just lucky breaks that you saw and took them?
I guess there was always a grand master plan. Really, I suppose, was to actually being an ecosystem photographer or pictures used all over the world, and I'm very passionate about photography, and and we really wanted to. If there was anything that I wanted for was to allow people to get their hands on really good photography at a fair price, and there was a great buzz in that for me. I mean, the fact that there was jobs and wealth created is really an output of all of that, and I think there was no real master plan to build a company and sell it at the end of the day. I mean, that would have been meaningless for me personally. I think it was just pivoted at the right time to say, right, well, if I stay here and do what I've been doing for the past couple of years, I probably have seen the value of the business drop an awful lot. So I think it's just standing outside of the business every now and again and evaluating where you're at to see if you can. I think you've got to keep pivoting. I know it's 5.5 years since we started work on Tweak. It only launched last year, and we've had to pivot lots of different times and admit to ourselves that some of the concepts that we started with were flawed and wrong, and learn from that experience and basically try to make life better for customers.
Do you have any further questions? Well, one question that I have for you, Jerry, as an entrepreneur, are you a perfectionist? And is that a virtue or is it a disadvantage when you're trying to get something out to the market quickly?
Of course, you know, I like to think that I'm a perfectionist, but I've got to be practical, and I think that, you know, it's a matter of getting it as right as we can. And the one caveat I say is that, you know, that we don't screw our customers up. I mean, the question we ask ourselves all the time is this going to piss off customers? And if you do something that pisses off customers, then that's wrong. We want to make it as good as we can and constantly iterate. You know, there's no, it's all of any kind of a business, online or offline or whatever else it is. I mean, you need to constantly improve it and listen and iterate, and it never stands still. But I mean, you know, I don't think you can really afford perfection, because, you know, you've got to move fast, and I think you don't even know what perfection is, because you constantly have to learn and adapt and make things better. So no, you can't afford to be a perfectionist, but at the same time, you can't afford to screw up customers.
Any further questions?
Jerry,
Do you want to move up? Just.
Sure. Kieran Fagan. Jerry, you've been very successful with Stockbyte. I was just wondering, and having been successful, and a lot of people maybe would have retired to the golf course or travelled or whatever, what continues to motivate you? What continues to drive you to carry on to the next project and to make that work, to make that succeed?
Well, I guess, you know, one of the things that, you know, when you do get out, and, you know, I was turfed out. I lost my job at the day I sold the company. So, you know, it does give you a bit of time to reflect and look back as to what you get a buzz out of and what you don't, and why you did it and whatever else. And, you know, the reason I did it day one was for the right reasons. You know, obviously, you know, there's a business motivation there, but, you know, I just loved photography, and I thought it would be really cool if the whole world could access great photography for a fair price in digital form, and they couldn't do that in 1996, and we were one of the companies that changed the world. And, you know, with Tweak, the vision is to make life better for small and medium business owners. They can't access great design for a fair price, you know, and I think Tweak has changed that. I mean, we're fundamentally giving those people access to a Madison Avenue standard of design for a really small cost. And we're, you know, so the idea is, you know, we're going to have many millions of users, and we'll share all of that investment. I mean, $30 million of investment to date, and to give those people a good business. So I think, you know, if you really offer something that's fantastic and world changing, you know, there is. And if you stick to your guns and learn from the experience, then ultimately it's going to be a great business. It's going to be a profitable business, and it's going to create jobs. So that's what drives me, and it's a great buzz to have that achievement, to go around the world as I do my job, and hear people say, look, this is amazing. It's game changing, and to do it from home. You know, the concept and the intellect that we've created in this business happens in a small building in the main street in Kennelly.
We've another question here.
Jerry, hi, Jane Kelly from Big Mountain. Jerry, just in terms of the scaling up, what would be the biggest piece of advice you'd give to a company scaling up fast? What's the main thing to do?
Get closer to the microphone there. I just difficulty hearing that question.
Sure. It's Jane Kelly from Big Mountain. In terms of scaling up fast, Jerry, what's the main advice that you would give to any company?
Well, I think in terms of scaling up fast, I mean, the first thing is to really understand your market. And the thing is, I mean, you know, on one page, you know, you should be able to put all of your competitors and what they offer and how you can differentiate themselves. So fundamentally, you have to understand why you deserve to be there and what's your strategy in terms of being different. That's really important, and a lot of people don't do it. You know, if you compare us against, there's very few competitors in our space, but if you compare us against any of them, I can tell you why we're different and why we're better for customers, and that's very logical. But I mean, secondly, I think the thing is, the partner thing is really, really important. You know, building a business and acquiring customers in the world today is a huge challenge. I mean, for example, if you're using Google AdWords, you know, you pay anything from 50 to 150 euros to acquire a customer. A lot of businesses don't have that kind of margins. So the thing is, building up one customer at a time is really tough. I believe in using partners and using channel And the criteria for picking those partners is people who've got great relationships with customers that fit the demographic for your business. They already have the relationship, you're effectively outsourcing your sales. And with a very small number of relationships, as I've proven with Stockbyte and now with Tweak, you're in a really significant business where you don't have to have tens of millions of customers directly. You're piggybacking on someone else's relationship, and it makes a very good business case for them.
Any further questions? Terry, we'll just wrap up here, and thank you very much for taking your very valuable time and giving us your very valuable time this morning on a voluntary effort as ever, and we appreciate that very much.